Over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Megan. Thanks for passing me the baton. And before I start, let me commend and appreciate everyone for making the time to join today's session as well. I do believe that if you were part of last week's session, you did learn something, at least a thing or two that you probably are gonna work with. Like I said earlier, this is we are now getting into the technicalities. Little by little. Today is not going to be, technically intensive as it is perceived to be, but then there's going to be some technical words that, of course, we'll try and do justice to. So yeah, thanks for coming, and then join me as I run you through this workshop. The idea is that I'm going to complete my presentation, and then we'll have time for questions and answers. So whilst I go along my presentation, if you happen to have any question, just try to write it down. And then when we are done and then we come back for questions and answer session, you have the opportunity to ask your question and then probably get your answer. If there's less time and you are probably not able to ask your question, we're going to open a segment on the Wada portal for this dRep initiative, where we are going to upload recorded videos already. Like for instance, what we did last week, we're going to record a video over there. So if you couldn't join last week, you will have the opportunity to actually go and then revisit that session to learn a thing or two from there. Today's session would also be uploaded on there. So you can also have the opportunity to rewatch again, so that at least you get yourself abreast with the information that we are laying across. And then also you will also have the chance to ask questions over there and probably receive answers. And like I said I'm gonna put together an FAQ document that I will probably share at the end of this session. Not today's session, but the entire dRep educational workshop session, so that you can make use of it in your own time. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. Next slide, please. Great. So this is an educational workshop that is being sponsored by, or let me say, being facilitated by, WADA. Like Mercy said, there's been some funding that requires that we do some of these educational sessions to actually engage our community members and also make sure that at least we are all on the same page as far as Interset is concerned, as far as Sancho is concerned, as far as dRep is concerned. And as far as Catalyst and then SIP 1694 are also concerned. So do well to pay rapt attention so that you're not left out. So today we're going to tackle module 1, which basically has to do with the Cardano governance formation. So at the end of today's session, I am preempting and I am assuming, and I'm hoping that you would have been able to at least get a fair understanding of Cardano's on-chain governance. How it is designed and how it even operates. You should also be able to understand to a certain extent how the dRep rule is also designed and what kind of function is going to play as far as governance in the Cardano ecosystem is concerned. And then you probably would also learn about why there is a need for you to delegate if you are an ADA holder. Next slide, please. Next slide. Great. So the first thing we're going to look at is actually the design of the Cardano governance and how it correlates with each other. So first of all, we all know that for each and every institution or organization or initiative, it has to stem out of some pillars or some columns. Even for instance, if you want to build a building and you erect the building without having a very firm foundation, or like the architect would say, or the technicians would say, if you don't have solid columns in your building, eventually it would collapse. And for Cardano, we have been around for a while, and it is never, and it has never, and it can never be our intent to actually start up something and then watch it collapse. So each and every time before we roll out any initiative to the community, it is ensured that there are strong pillars that is actually binding whatever or holding whatever it is that we are introducing to the community. So in the age of Voltaire, we have three main pillars that is actually holding our Cardano governance structure. And these pillars actually has to do with institutions, constitutional representations, and then the democratic consent. Permit me to read to you what these three elements actually entail. So for institutions, strong institutions drive good governance. Intersect as a member-based organization, create an enhanced framework for the community to continue its role in developing and improving Cardano. So if you are looking for what or even why there is something called intersect, I guess now you know why there is something called intersect and why probably there's even the need for you to want to be part of it. So it is playing a very core role in the governance of Cardano in the age of Voltaire, and that is the institutionalization of it. So you get to appreciate that from that bit. And also with the constitutional representation, the constitution and the constitutional committee, like I said, like I heard earlier, that our very own Mercy, had a seat at the Intersect Constitutional Committee, which is very interesting. And basically their role is going to play, is going to lead in the stability and security of the network. And then this will be delivered throughout 2024. Cardano Constitution will evolve from an interim to a fully ratified version on chain. And then for the democratic consent, Cardano improvement proposal, which is 1694, I believe probably now is the first time for somebody to even learn about what really is the full meaning of CIP, as we have been saying all along. So CIP simply represents Cardano improvement proposal. And these proposals are actually initiated by academics, and every other person in the community who is very much interested in the growth and sustainability of the ecosystem. So they come together, they put this documentation together, and then they name it, and then we go ahead to implement, and then we see the results from there. So CIP 1694 currently is what is binding the Voltaire age, and it basically describes a governance system to bring decision making for the Cardano network on chain, and it seeks to advance the current governance system, ensuring every data holder has a voice in Cardano's evolution. Like Mercy said, this is something that we've been fighting for a long time now, and we are always happy to share that gradually we are getting there, slow but sure we are getting there. Next slide, please. Okay. So now we have the chance to look at the governance rules. Like I said, at the end of this particular presentation, you would have learned about some rules, and particularly the dRep rule, and how you can be able to engage, and even why there's a need for you to be part of it. So there are basically 5 rules in this governance that we are talking about, and these 5 rules sort of describes how a community member can actually participate in the Voltaire age. So the first one has to do with dRep, which we have probably heard about several times. Like we said in the previous workshop, dRep stands for delegate representative. And basically, what they do is directly casting votes on all governance actions, and then they represent those data holders, delegating stake to them. And then the second one has to do with the constitutional committee, and theirs is to vote only on the constitutionality of actions. If the CC oversteps this bound, the rule can be revoked with no confidence action. The rule is also revoked automatically when terms expire. So this is also something that if you follow even the normal governance structure that we are practicing in our various countries, the judiciary, the legislature, and then the executive, if you follow how they go about their duties. I think it paints a clear picture as to what we are also trying to do here on the blockchain governance. And the next one has to do with the stake collaborators who have also been around for a while. DS basically has to do with to vote only on specific governance action types. So they have specific governance actions that they can actually, vote on. So they are not entirely engaged as a dRep is going to be engaged in the, in the governance section. Then the last but not the least has to be with the delegating ADA holders. And then these are ADA holders who do not become dReps, can delegate voting stake to the dRep of their choice. So the dRep may vote on their behalf. So just like you're holding ADA right now, you're probably an ADA holder right now, maybe 500 ADA, 1,000 ADA, whatever. If you have not delegated your ADA to any dRep yet, you fall under this particular category. You're an ADA holder, but you're not delegating it to anybody. Okay, and out of this, you can even decide to actually, cast your own votes without even delegating. And then the last one, which is a very interesting one, where obviously most of us here actually fall under this category, is the non-delegating ADA holders. These are ADA holders who do not delegate their voting stake to any dRep automatically, fall into this category. So, like right now, as I'm speaking, of course, this whole dRep stuff, SanchoNet and stuff are still under construction. Even as I speak now, last night, the governance tool was, reset. So as it stands now, nothing really is going to be like, no functionality is basically working at the moment. So it means that there are no dReps and there is nobody delegating to dReps yet because we are still in the testnet and everything. So we would all classify ourselves under this particular category as non-delegating ADA holders. Next slide, please. I think you missed 14. Okay, so there was a mess up there. Okay. All right, good. Thanks. So now we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the structure so that at least each and everyone here gets the opportunity to understand and embrace and appreciate how the roles are attained and even how the process all looks like. So first off, it comes out as a tree structure where on top of the tree we have you start as a regular ADA holder. So this is where I would classify each and every one of us here. So we are all regular ADA holders in here. And then out of us, there are five main branches that we can actually look at. The first branch has to do with you creating a dRep ID, right? So if you want to become, or if you want to engage in this whole, voter age governance action, first off, you need to create a dRep ID and then get a registration certificate. And this includes having or getting a dRep ID, and then of course, which is optional, an anchor or a URL like I was talking about the other time to a JSON payload or metadata and a hash for the contents of the metadata URL. That is optional, but what is compulsory is that you need to get yourself a dRep ID, and then to be able to participate in the voter age consent. So if you go down that line and you probably don't want to go any further, just down that line, then you get a chance to, become a dRep, because now you have you'll be identified by the verification key that you get, and then also a native or Bluetooth strip that you'll be able to, attach to whatever it is that you do. And then the next one is you can also be nominated as part of a constitutional committee governance action. And how this happens is that there needs to be a public voting credentials, and then there needs to be a quorum. So perhaps somebody needs to nominate you, and then there has to be this public voting, and then a quorum must be formed basically to ensure that you are now part of a constitutional committee. Could you go back? Wait. Okay, so there was a mess up there. All right. And this also, with this one too, when you are done, you are going to be identified by a verification key, just like the dRep, and then you also have your native or Bluetooth strip. And then the next one has to be you operating as a Cardano stake pool. So of course, as it stands now, there are a lot of stake pools, in the pipeline, some of which are African, some of which are, foreign and all, all playing their respective roles in shaping the community and the ecosystem at large. So you can choose to operate a Cardano stake pool, and then you will be identified by the votes on specific governance actions that you make. And then also you can also choose to delegate your voting stake. So that is when you are deciding that you're not going to participate in any of the previous three roles, but rather you're going to just give out your voting power to, somebody you believe and trust can actually vote on your behalf, as far as voting is concerned. So you delegate your voting stake to the person, and then you will be identified by the delegated voting stake that you do, which is the voting power. Or if you don't want any of these four, you can just choose to do nothing. So you can just choose to, be in your home, care about nothing, just do nothing. And then that automatically will move you into the line of being a non-delegating ADA holder. And then you'll be identified by undelegated voting stake, and then you'll also be known as a no dRep. Next slide, please. I think, okay. All right. So now we're going to look at how the process is actually enacted. So we start off with, a group of people, an organization, or an individual who probably could be a dRep or not, could be a stake pool operator or not, could be a constitutional committee member or not, decides to put across a governance action. So they submit this governance action, and the governance action, a typical example probably could be, let me just use something simple so that we get a sense of what I'm talking about here. So a governance action could be that, let's say, in order for anybody to participate in the voting, right, the person should hold at least 100 ADA to be able to participate. So that is a governance action which requires the consensus of the entire ecosystem before it can be enacted as a law, to help with the governance structure. So this person, when they put across this, or when they submit this governance action, now it is the job of dReps and the stake pool operators and then the constitutional committees to actually deliberate over this governance action and cast their votes before it can move to the next stage. And like I said, with the dReps, all of us can choose to become dReps. All of us can choose to just delegate our voting stake to dReps. All of us can also choose to become non-delegated. Like basically do nothing, right? So we all fall under that category. And then we have stake pool operators who are already in the ecosystem. They are pertinent about hard fork sessions and all. So they play their role over there. And then the constitutional committee, like what Mercy now belongs to, they would also have the chance to actually, refer this governance action to established committee and then cast their vote as to whether it should move ahead or not, right? And then when these votes are, collated, it can come either as ratified or expired. So it would turn out as expired if, for instance, we have constitutional committee, right, not voting, stake pool operators not voting, and then dReps also not voting for a particular time, because every governance action has a timeline. So if within that timeline, these three organizations or individuals do not play their role, or they decide that their role is not to actually vote on this particular governance action, then after that time, after that duration, that particular governance action would expire. And then what it means is that it cannot move to the next, session, rather it will be taken off, the list of governance actions that needs to be attended to. However, whoever submitted that particular governance action can resubmit for, maybe later trying to see if it will go through or not, right? So they can resubmit it. And then when all of these three entities decide to vote for vote on this particular governance action, then it means that the governance action is ratified. In other words, it is appreciated. And then now we can go to the enactment stage. And even with the ratification stage, what can happen is that they can, their votes can be either yes or abstain or no or whatever. So if it is yes, obviously to ratify, and then we'll get the chance to actually enact. But if their vote is abstain or no, more so like not voting at all, then that particular governance action would expire, or yeah, will not be enacted, and it will go to the expiration stage, and then probably later on the governance action proposal can come back and the rest submit and see what happens. So just like in the Catalyst community, where for each and every fund, people are given the chance to propose their ideas, allow you to go through the phases, and when they are when after voting they are funded, they get the funds to implement. When they are not funded, they come back the next one to actually come and try again the whole process again. It is basically as so as this governance action enactment process. Next slide, please. Now we're going to look at the dRep Pro. Next slide. So we're going to have a deep down dive to understand what the dRep role is all about, and who can even become a dRep, and probably at the latter part we'll also look at why there's a need for you to become a dRep. Okay, so the dRep basically serves as the community spokesperson who is actively participating by voting on governance actions and advocating for their delegated collective interest. So just like let me use Ghana as an example. Like, how our governance system. So with our governance system, we have something we call the legislature, where, it is filled with members of parliament and sometimes cabinet ministers who are, discussing issues, government issues and government businesses and all of those. But then for anybody to actually get into that particular room and have the title as either a member of parliament or cabinet or whatever, first off, they need to be voted by the community that they're actually coming from. So we call it a constituency. Sometimes, let me use constituency. So you have, let's say person A coming from maybe X constituency, saying that you guys should vote for me so that I can voice out your troubles, or I can represent you in the parliament house. So they do the voting, and then they vote for him, and then the person gets a chance to actually go and represent them. So in that particular house, that single individual is seen as the entire constituency that he is representing. So whatever thoughts, whatever ideas he provides on the platform when given, it is conceived and accepted as a thought coming from that particular constituency. So I remember there was a time where there was a need to they were debating about a certain bill that needed to be passed. I think it was this e-levy bill, for instance, and then a certain member of parliament actually got a platform, and then he spoke, and then at the end of the day they had to cast their vote. So they casted their votes, and the person actually voted for that particular bill to be passed and processed to become a law. And then the person now went back to his community, and the community were like, we didn't ask you to vote the direction or the way you did, so go back to where you're coming from. You understand? So sometimes these are some of the issues that comes up. But I believe that in the Cardano ecosystem, we are like-minded individuals, and of course, whoever gets the chance to become a dRep is going to play a very critical role, and ensure that indeed what we think should be done is what is being done at a certain time, especially with decision making, right? And then they hold significant responsibilities in the governance process, and they vote on important system updates, like I've said. And their approval depends on the governance action type and requires a sufficient vote from the corresponding governance bodies, which is the SPU, the Constitutional Committee, and the dReps. So as a dRep, you have a power to vote. And the vote that you are going to vote, the decision is just three decisions that you are making. It's either you are voting yes, you are voting no, or you are voting abstain on a specific governance action. And then your vote represent the ADA holder's collective voice, like I made the analogy and then it makes your role crucial in Cardano decentralized decision making. Because we cannot have each and everybody sitting in a room to make decision. We can take like 1,000 years to make a single decision if that is the way we want to go. But if we are able to delegate our thoughts, our ideas, and our power to individuals to represent us, then it cuts down the time we need to actually make a single decision and then move forward as far as running the organization is concerned. Next slide, please. Okay, so there are some expectations that you need to, have in mind if you want to become a dRep. First of all, you need to be a community leader, which is you need to show the community and the wider Cardano ecosystem that you have a vested interest in the growth and the future of Cardano. So if you're a person that we cannot see such a value in you, then it becomes a bit of a problem for you to become a dRep. And then also you must be very transparent. You must have the interest that at all times, you will remain open. And if there are any conflicts of interest whatsoever, with other roles or positions that you're probably handling within the community, you need to come up clear and let the people know that, okay, I'm handling this role. I think that is conflicting with the dRep stuff, so I just want to drop one and then move on like that. It should be very easy for you to do. And then your delegators and others can, they will be able to view this. So there's a guidance template that you have to be shared ahead of vote. And then also you need to know that there's minimum asks. One of the key goals for delegation is to improve the quality of decision making and to create a more equal landscape with voting power. Next slide, please. Eduva, next slide. Okay, so now we are getting there. So now we're going to learn about how to even understand delegation. Next slide. And that will bring us to appreciate the question, why must one delegate? And a lot of times people have had their own issues about this whole dRep initiative. People have expressed their dissentiments and dissatisfaction about it. Some people are of the view that if we delegate our voting power to somebody, or if you really launch this dRep, it is going to hurt some especially in the Catalyst community, it is going to hurt some communities and favor some communities. Like for instance, if let's say if there's a dRep from everywhere else outside Africa, right? These guys. This is people's thought I'm actually trying to yield out here. It is not my personal thought, so just bear with me. So there was a notion that people from the West hold a lot more ADA than people from the Africa. So if people from the West decide to delegate all their voting power to, a dRep from there, and then let's say Africa should also do the same, and then now what happens is that when it is time for voting in the Catalyst community, because the West have a lot of voting power than Africa does, and then the West is actually, told to vote for only the Western proposals and forget about vote yes for Western proposals and vote abstain or maybe no for African proposals. It is going to be a problem because their voting power is much, and then so that was the notion, but gradually, as we roll out this initiative, people are now getting to understand that it is not really what they were thinking, that one dRep could have an autonomous control over the other parties and then maybe vote biasly or something. Of course, there's such constraint, but then there's a guide that is going to ensure that each and every dRep actually is not biased, right? So that is not much of a problem to even worry about anymore. Now, delegation enables either holders to delegate some or all of their voting power to a delegate representative. That is one reason for delegating. And then also dReps can coordinate and form policies together, review data, consult with experts, and ultimately vote on proposals. But then they have to be extremely careful to not be biased. So that is something that you need to also know. Also, delegation is used today in several liquid democracy applications. Example for decision making within political parties and within other medium or large size organizations. Like I make the analogy in Ghana here, what we are going by is more like the dRep, the delegation approach that we are using here. And also there's a free software available for setting up a liquid democracy environment. Example, the liquid feedback platform. And you guys can check it out later to see what it is. Next slide, please. I guess that is it. Okay. So now somebody will ask, instead of delegating my power to somebody to vote on my behalf, why don't I vote myself, you know? And there are some concerns about this actually. You can choose to vote for yourself, but then there are some technicalities that you probably would want to consider. So concern number one has to be overwhelming number of transactions in the system if a big number of stakeholders vote within the same period. So I think we experienced this before in previous catalyst funding rounds. I don't have the exact funding round of head, but I think we have experienced it before where the voting system was hijacked. It was hijacked with lots of volumes coming in at the same time. So like others were unable to process their payment. Their voting and all. So this is something that simply happens to systems and softwares. So it is something that we need to be careful about. And then concern number two has to do with for some governance actions, especially there are some that are more technical in nature. So if you are somebody who is not technically inclined, it might be difficult for you to, make the right decision on such a proposal. Such governance action proposal, right? But then it may not be easy for, all stakeholders, of course, to form a confident opinion. And the opinion might even sometimes be biased simply because you don't really understand the technicalities and what is being asked of the community. And then the concern number three has to do with many individuals may find it challenging to prioritize voting as a dRep amidst their busy schedules. This is very true. And especially if you relate it, I'm making a lot of comparison with Catalyst because I've been with Catalyst for a while, I think since Fund 3. So I'm trying to, read my experience from there to this particular initiative just to allow people to understand what is at stake here and why they must even, participate. So in Catalyst, for instance, if you vote on proposals, I don't know how many of you actually vote on proposals, but you can bear with me that the rewards are very minimal, and it is extremely discouraging, especially if you're holding, say, if your voting power is like 500 ADA or 1,000 ADA. Sometimes, when the voting rewards are released and they announce that you have released the voting rewards, you go and check your wallet and you don't even notice if you have gotten some rewards, you understand? Because it's very minimal because of the voting power. And that that in its essence actually acted as a deterrent for individuals to even engage in the voting process. So at some point in time, we realized that wallets actually registering to participate in voting was declining little by little. But if you look at this dRep, for instance, you don't necessarily have to, go and vote with your 500 ADA. Just delegate it to somebody to vote on your behalf. And then because it is one individual receiving delegations from different individuals who probably have different voting stakes, it accumulates, and then that particular dRep now has a lot of voting power to vote. So when they vote and then the rewards are being released, it is significant. It makes significant sense, and everybody is able to at least get a share from it. So that is it. We don't want people to be wondering about their busy schedules and also thinking about voting power. So that's the third concern. And I think that is the last concern, I'm sure. Next slide, please. I'm sure that is all. Okay, you have last one here. So now there's a question of, does delegation even help? And like I said earlier, I made an analogy earlier that a lot of people were contemplating about whether it is even necessary to actually implement this initiative, or we should just go by our normal ways of everybody participating in the voting. But then if you ever ask a question of does delegation help, obviously you have some people saying no, and then you also have some people saying yes. But per research, we can say that yes, if the majority of the jurors take the time and effort to form a well-justified opinion, because they take the time to make a well-informed decision, it benefits the ecosystem entirely. And then also, yes, if the stakeholders delegate their voting power to dReps that they trust or generally tend to agree with. And then it is no if the dRep do not do their job and not care about the election outcome and the future of Cardano. So of course, this initiative will be a flaw, a big time flaw, and a detriment to the ecosystem if dReps, decide not to play their role. If they decide to just be biased and vote anyhow, basically not caring about the future of the ecosystem, which probably you and I are, much worried about. Some of the times when ADA is declining in value, there are some individuals who are really worried. And I say this because I hear it, I see it, I read it all the time from the community that I actually belong to. So there are a lot of people who are actually concerned about the growth and the sustainability of the ecosystem. So we need to make it, our efforts as community members to, make sure that this particular initiative stands out well, so that it helps the growth and the sustainability of the ecosystem. I think that is the last slide for today. I do believe that we have all had the chance to learn a thing or two. If not for anything, you have learned about why there's a need for delegation, or why must one even be engaged in delegation. You have learned about the dRep role in its entirety. You have also learned about the governance, voter governance processes and its design. So now I would pause here and then allow or make room for people to come up with their questions. So we have a Q&A session, and then hopefully jump up the call, anytime soon. Thanks for listening, and thanks for being here once again. I do appreciate it. Okay. Megan, would you take over?
I think Megan is in another room. Sorry, where are we? I went to the French room. I just came back.
Okay. So I'm done with the presentation now. Now it's time for questions and answers.
Perfect. All
Yeah,
righty.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nana Safo. That was another wonderful presentation. Thank you for good delivery on top of it, I always say.
Thank you.
And so now let's see if people have questions that they want to ask. Guys, the floor is open now. Messi, do you think we should all go back to the main room with the French guys and go through the questions, or we can do our question and answer here?
They are almost done. So we can start. This is the main room. So when they are finished, they will come here. So I think we have a bit of time, right? Okay, so we are at the top of the hour. Let's see if we can take one or two questions. And then after that, if people need to drop off, they can drop off. And then those that want to stay and do a bit more of a deep dive, it will be optional. So if there are any pressing questions, we can take that now. Any questions? Was that clear? So the role of the dRep is going to be very important. Some of the presentation that I caught from Nana Safo, basically the dRep is a way, if we all remember Catalyst, with Catalyst, sometimes if you don't have a lot of ADA, it's very difficult to get projects from some regions or projects that tailor towards some aspects of the ecosystem, like education, governance. They tend to fall back a little bit. But the whole dRep setup, I know that there is still work to be done. But the whole idea of the dRep is to just equalize the playing field a little bit. So what I'll say is that we all need to stay engaged. If anything in this presentation didn't make sense or doesn't make sense, please speak up. The dRep, the whole dRep, what do you call it, setup hasn't started yet, but it will start soon. And we will be bringing you the information on that. So any questions, 1 question, 2 questions, and then we can sort of hang around.
Are there any specific challenges that are faced by these dReps, or we are yet to get there?
You mean as it stands now?
Yes.
So for now, I would say that the main challenge that dReps are facing, let me say potential dReps, because now there's no, like, nobody really has a tag of being a dRep. So everybody is kind of trying it out. You are still on the testing phase. So, but now the major challenge has to do with the accessibility and availability of the system, which is the GAV2 platform that people get to explore how these things work. It is not really stable. Sometimes it is stable, sometimes it is not stable. Like I mentioned earlier, just last night it was reset. So today, if you visit it right now, anything that you would try probably would not work, because they're still working on restoring it to its entirety. And then also those who want to go into the node version, actually getting a Sancho node for these dRep activities to setting it up is not something that is easy. It comes with cost, and also it comes with a lot of technical know-how, and especially those who are into coding. So if you are into coding, you are fine, but you are not really into coding, then just like what we are going to do, so we're going to set up a dRep let me say a dRep team, which probably would comprise of coders, and then would also comprise of folks who are into education, like people who stand out to educate others. And then we also have those who are, so like a bit of every expertise is going to come on board. So and then put together the facility and then get to run it. So it is not as difficult as running a staple really is. This is a bit flexible, because this one you don't need a relay. You just need a single node, and then a single server to run your node, and then you're good to go. The only thing is that when you're running the node on a server, you'll not be able to use that particular server for any other activity aside the dRep activities that you want to do. Maybe by the time it gets launched, probably they would enhance things a bit and make things a bit flexible, so that you're able to use a single PC for this dRep stuff, and also probably use for other activities that you want to use it for. But as it stands now, it is 1-for-1, and it just costs as well. So that is a bit, I would say that is a challenge that potential dReps probably would face now. But like I said, we are in a testing phase, so hopefully by time of actualization, these problems,
these problems will be addressed.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. And when you talk about the skill set, you mentioned people with coding skills and stuff like that. Who are those things, qualifications that you recommend for anyone aspiring to be a dRep?
I think if you want to be an individual dRep, then there is the need for you to have such skills. Because for instance, even though Sancho has tried to build this GAV2, and but the whole idea is that for the GAV2, the whole idea is to actually collect feedback. Make people test the functionalities and then collect the feedback, and then use the feedback to improve the node system. So it means that probably in time when they're going to launch this thing to its entirety, maybe we are not going to have this GAV2 existing anymore. We're just going to go by the node. Or better still, they probably would want to improve the GAV2 even further, and then allow everybody to be able to participate, right? But then the question becomes that if we are to allow everybody to become a dRep, it is more like allowing each and every single ADA holder to vote. So now the question of multiple transactions coming in at a time and jamming the system or hijacking the system becomes a reality now, because something that you avoid, you're now running back to it. So obviously there's going to be some constraint that probably would cap the number of people or the expertise of people who can actually become dRep. And aside having that coding skills, you would also have to be somebody who is really good at critical thinking and problem solving.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
some other-
if you could, those things are just something that you need. You have to think critically about issues and how to solve problems and things like that. That comes with it. Yeah.
Exactly. And then your leadership
Skills.
attitude and skills would also play a very crucial role. And even your marketing skills, because you will need to market yourself to get people to delegate to you. So it's more like an entire venture on its own that people are around on the ecosystem.
Is it worth it for anybody to go through all this just to become a dRep? What are the benefits? Are we talking about that in the subsequent programs?
Yeah. In our subsequent, probably, I think in our next meeting, we'll have the chance to look at some of the benefits of becoming a dRep. And I think, the stuffs in there are interesting. And I think so let's just put that on hold for now and then. But I think it is an interesting experience and journey for anybody to want to go through this.
Yeah.
I mean, to become a dRep, at least you get to learn a thing or two as you go along.
Thank you, everybody, especially to our moderators. Thank you, Nanasa, for once again. We are never tired of thanking you guys for your time, for the deep insights you share with us. Thank you very much, Martin. Thank you, Boaz. Thank you, Laurentine. I know you did a great job in the French room. And audience or our participants, thank you for being here, and thank you for your interest in these things that we bring your way. As we always say, we can take the conversation beyond this forum or on this call. Our socials are always active. Join us on Facebook, on IG, on X, on YouTube, Discord, and any other platforms that you see the Wada handle. You can send us an email, hello@wada.org. You can also check out our website for more information, www.wada.org. Thank you very much. Until same time next week, take care of yourselves. We'll see you when we see you. Thank you.